Hello, welcome to Gaga Knits. My name's Anita and I live in South Wales in the UK, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Anita Bob, and show notes can be found in the description box below. I hope you've had a nice few weeks since we spoke last. It's the Whitsun Bank holiday here in the UK and we've been having a nice weekend. The family came over for Sunday lunch yesterday and Harry stayed over the night. He slept in my craft room on my little camp bed, which I am sitting on now because I've decided I'm going to keep this up because it's quite narrow, so it fits on the one side of my small craft room, and I've stuffed all sorts of different boxes of crafty things underneath, and it's quite comfy to sit on, and I thought it makes a nice backdrop for the podcast. This is Arthur, my lunar lapin that I introduced in my last podcast, I think, and he has now met with Harry and been terrorised by Harry. He's had his legs tied in knots, he's slid down the stairs. What else has happened to you? He's been wrapped up in a ball, he's been dragged along by one arm, and he also was cuddled all night in bed. So he survived his ordeal. His arms and legs didn't fall off, so he's doing quite well. I have 2 finished knitting projects to show you this week and some works in progress for sewing, and I thought I would also show you how I'm getting on with my cross stitch. So let's start with knitting and my first finished object. These are my neon footies by Kaitlin Maday. I made them for Jodie, and I haven't made trainer liners before, or shorties, but I call them trainer liners. And it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I used Wendy Roam yarn, 4-ply yarn in Windermere, and I used 46 grams out of 100 gram skein, so plenty there, and obviously I did everything all in the same colour. You had to do 7 rows of 2x2 rib, and then the heel flap, turn and gusset. I'm not sure if that's what you call it, and then obviously you knit down the length of the foot, whatever length you need, and I always use my little sock cards, and then I slot that in to see. I stopped 1.5 inches before the end and then started on the toe decreases, which was you decrease 1 stitch on either side of the toe every other row until you get to 28 stitches, and then Kitchener stitch the heel. So they're really nice. Washed and blocked them and they're ready to go to Jodie. And I'm also going to enter them into the Stash Cal 2019, hosted by Leslie of Not Quite Enough Yarn and Barbara from Flame and Fibre podcast, where you have to knit from your stash, and the yarn you use has to have been purchased before December 2018, and you can't start knitting before January 2019, so they fit that category. Whew. Sorry, a neighbour called round, so I had to stop recording. It's always the way, isn't it? Sit here fine, no one calls round. As soon as I set the recording to podcast, the door goes, or the phone rings, or something happens. Anyway, that's all sorted. So I showed you my socks, and my second finished object is my Close to You shawl by Justyna Lorkowska, and here it is. It looks really long, but it isn't a really long shawl. It's only 1 skein of yarn. And when I finished making it, I did think it wasn't going to be long enough to go around my neck nicely, but after washing and blocking it, it stretched out quite a lot. Well, not stretched out, that doesn't sound very good, does it? But it grew, and now it's a nice size, I think. And it's quite light to wear. I can't do it because the camera makes everything backwards. My brain doesn't cope with backwards. So anyway, that's the the shawl, and it's a really nice shawl if you're new to shawl knitting. I haven't made many myself, because you start here, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. You cast on 19 stitches. Yes, just checking my notes to make sure I'm giving you the right information. You cast on 19 stitches and you make the eyelet rows, and then you knit several rows where you increase at this end every row, and you decrease 1 stitch every other row, and about every 12th row you cast off 8 and do the eyelet rows. So you're always casting off and adding, so you're casting off this end and adding on this end every sort of 12 or so rows, so you never have too many stitches on the needles at one time, because some shawls this whole length would be, you might start here with 1 stitch and slowly increase, and you get more and more and more and more, but it wasn't like that, so it didn't feel like you were endlessly knitting. It was really nice to knit on. And Jodie really likes the colourway, which is the Fire and Ice yarn that I got from a little shop in Narberth called the Green Door. And I'm saying the Fire and Ice yarn, but it's actually from well, it's not a company, but it's called Gone Astray. And also when I looked on their website, they had a stall at the West Wales Wool Show and also Wonderwool, but they were for 2018 and they didn't mention anything for 2019, so I don't know if they attended either of those this year. I went to Wonderwool and I went to Wonderwool and I didn't see them there, but they might have been there and I just didn't notice. So I don't really have anything else to say about that one. A really nice scarf to knit, or shawl. Did I say scarf? Really nice shawl to knit if you're quite new to shawl knitting, I think. Actually, I do have something else to say about this shawl. I'm entering it into 2 knit-alongs. So firstly, I'm entering it into Ellie from Craft House Magic's Shawl Along, which ran through May. So that's just coming to an end now. And I'm also entering it into the same one as I did the socks, which is the Stash Cal 2019, because it fits that criteria too. This year was supposed to be the year of the Cal for me, so I'm doing quite well. And I'm finding that joining in with these Cals is really helping, because my works in progress are coming down and it's giving me a chance to start new things. And I have a new work in progress. When I went to Wonderwool, I won this little ball of yarn that I hadn't really heard of, and I called it pure Devon alpaca, but it's actually from Bearhouse Alpacas. And I've looked their website up, and they sell alpacas, the animals, and also breed them and sell yarn. And this is the nicest, I don't think I've got any alpaca yarn, and it's so soft, and it's also described as worsted spun, which I looked up because it's not worsted weight, but worsted spun means instead of the fibres being casted, which I think, or combed, how did I, oh dear, I better look it up. And I looked it up on the internet to see what worsted spun meant, and it means instead of the fibres being carded, which is where they're sort of carded, combed each way, they're combed parallel to each other, which creates a smoother, softer finish, and you don't get the little splitty bits that sometimes stick out of wool, which is the bit that makes it itchy. So it's not itchy, and it's so lovely and soft. So I'm not sure if it's because it's worsted spun is the reason why it's so soft, or if it's because it's the alpaca. But I am making the Pichacho Peak, which is another free pattern on Ravelry, and it comes, the patterning on it comes in a chart. It's only a chart and not written, so I've highlighted the different the different stitches, and actually it's quite easy. It's just the same if you followed a chart for colour work or for cross stitch. There's no difference to that. Usually you have a chart or the choice of written, and I would probably follow the written instructions, but that's fine, and it's quite simple and quite straightforward. And because the pattern is a 16-row repeat, you soon get to remember the 16 different stitches, so that's fine. And I've got all my little stitch markers on there that I had from Tina from Simply in Stitches when I met with her at the NEC in Birmingham when there was a craft show. And I've got that far. I don't think you can really see the lace detail, but it's so lovely and soft. See if I can put it on without losing the stitches. And it's going to be ideal as a hat because it's not itchy if it goes down on you. Ooh. I always think I look a bit silly in hats, but I think this one's going to be quite nice. And then obviously I've got my Toft pom-pom to go on the top, which is the reason why, oh, and I'm wrapping, which is the reason why I wanted to make this hat anyway. Oh, I've got messed up hair now. It's not particularly brilliant today anyway. I had to get in the shower, in and out of the shower really quick because Harry was here. He doesn't give you any time to yourself. So I'm looking forward to finishing that. I'll probably work on that again tonight a little bit. And another work in progress, or I should say in the pipeline because I haven't even cast it on yet, is for Arthur. Since he was such a brave boy with Harry this weekend, I thought I would start on the little cardigan from the pattern I bought at Wonderwool, Albert the Big Rabbit. I bought the pattern for knitting the rabbit because it came with a little pattern for knitting the cardigan, which you can't really see. And I was looking for a tweed effect 4-ply yarn to make his cardigan, but I've decided, as I've got so much of this Wendy Roam left, and there is slight purpley, obviously it's purple, slight greeny colour in that yarn, that actually would look quite nice as a little cardigan for him. So he's going to have a little cardigan in that. Perhaps I'll cast that on tonight instead. Such decisions. Sewing. So I've got 2 works in progress. I have been watching Me Made May, or looking on Instagram and seeing everyone's Me Made May items, and I'd love to join in one year, but there's 31 days in May, as everyone knows, and even if I used all my shop bought clothes and homemade or handmade items, I don't have 31 outfits. Even if I mix and match, I don't have 31. I really need to go through my wardrobe and look for the gaps that people say about, because I know there's lots and lots of gaps, but I feel with my sewing, I've got to the point where I know what I'm supposed to do in theory, but it's getting the fit right is the thing. I'm sewing them up just to a size, and I'm not adjusting them enough to fit me. And I'm a size between, well, I'd like to say a 10, but it's more a 12, and I'm 5'1½", so I need to adjust things to get them to fit properly. So anyway, the first dress I'm trying to make is the Elsie dress from Sew Over It, and Jodie and Matthew bought me this pattern for my 50th birthday, so a year ago now, and I still haven't made it. But what I decided to do was I always trace my patterns out anyway onto tracing paper to keep the original pattern, just in case anybody else wants me to make anything. And then I've got the whole size range there, and I traced the pattern pieces out and I made a toile. And I'm going to have to turn you round to show you my mannequin. So here's my mannequin, and this is my toile out of an old bed sheet. And this is the second one I made, because you have princess seams in the front and in the back, and this nice neckline. But when I tried it on, I must have really narrow shoulders, because this neckline was quite far over there and sort of gapey. So I decided to pinch out an inch on either side of the neckline, on the front and the back. So I just measured half an inch on either side, obviously because I pinched it, and stapled it on my traced out pattern pieces. And then I retraced, so I did that and folded the pieces down along the tracings. And then I recut this one and sewed again the princess seams and tried this on, and this seems to fit much better. So I was pleased with that, and there's the back. And my mannequin's adjustable, so this is to my size, with the big caps. Anyway, so this is going to be more my size, and I've tried it on, like I say, and that fits much better across the neck. I'll turn us back around again now. This is the fabric I'm going to use. It's quilting cotton, and you can see it's very light brown, and it's got orange little circles with cream dots and little brown dots, so I thought that would look. I have 3 meters of it, so I've got plenty. I'm folding it inside out because I keep all my fabric in my grandma's old blanket box, and I was buying fabric and putting it in there, and I was never sure which fabric had been washed and ironed, which you're supposed to do before you use it, and which hadn't. So I thought, if I wash and iron it, I'm going to put it back in the blanket box inside out, because then I know that the ones that are inside out have been washed and the ones that are the right way haven't. I was thinking of putting labels on and different things people said they did, but I just thought, well, that's easy, isn't it? Inside out, washed, and the right way, not. So that's the fabric I'm going to use, and I bought it at Tredegar House in Newport, which is a National Trust property, and it's, let me look at my notes, a 17th century Charles II mansion set in 90 acres of park, and it's got several craft shops and a cafe, and there's plenty of parking. And it was a couple of years ago, I went there with a friend, and we went into the little sewing shop there, and it's really nice. Oh, and the shop's called Busy Bees Patchwork, and there's a website if you want to buy anything on there. So I think I'll be going there again, because I forgot all about that shop, and I only really looked it up so that I could tell you, and then I thought I need to go there again. So anyway, I'm making that, and I've done the toile, but the sew over it patterns, if any of you have ever done them, they are really good, and they are very detailed, but there are a lot of steps to each pattern, and it can be a bit daunting. So for example, the Elsie dress, which is what I'm doing here, has got 44 steps, and in the past I have made the 1940s wrap dress from Sew Over It for my daughter's wedding, so I could wear it to that, and that had 52 steps, so that was even more steps again. So anyway, as I haven't done dressmaking for a little while, I've made a couple of tops, but I haven't made a dress. I thought it would be better for me to make something a bit simpler and something that I'd made before. So I decided to make this one, the new Look K6262, and I was doing option A, which is that one down here, because I've made that twice before. I've made one in a red Love Hearts fabric, and I'll put a picture in, and then I also made it in a haberdashery fabric, and the Love Hearts one I think was too big, and the haberdashery fabric one fitted quite well, and I thought I would use the fabric that I bought when I went to the NEC in Birmingham, which was this dragonfly fabric. So this is how far I've got so far. So this is how far I've got. I've done the bodice, and there are some bust darts and some waist darts on the front and some waist darts on the back, except I've taken mine from the back out because, as I say, I trace all my patterns off, and then when I've done the pattern, I keep the pattern pieces in these little plastic wallets. So as I'd made this pattern before, I thought I would go back to my little wallets, get out the K6262 envelope, and I don't need to do a toile because I've made two before, and I know I've got all the pattern pieces in there drawn out, so I just kept the fabric out, sewed the bodice together, tried it on, and it was really tight, and I couldn't work out why is it so tight. And I could have put some weight on, but I tried the haberdashery dress on before I started making this dress, and that one fitted me fine. So I laid that dress out, and I laid the bodice of this one on the top, and there was about that much on either side. The new one was that much smaller, and I thought, well, I don't understand. I've taken the pattern pieces out of the wallet, and I looked at the pattern pieces, and they said size 10, and I looked at the measurements on the packet, and size 10 did seem rather small, but I know a lot of the time the sizing on the wallets are all over the place anyway, and you have to downsize. So I thought, well, how have I done that? And then I thought, well, I'll look through the rest of my wallets and see if I have any other traced out pattern pieces, and yes, I did. I had another wallet with the same pattern in with size 12 pattern pieces, which is the pattern pieces that I should have used. So mine was too small, and I didn't have enough fabric to cut it out again, so I unpicked the side seams, and instead of a 1.5 centimetre seam, I have just made the seam the width of the presser foot, and I took out the back darts, and I can still see a bit of thread from those, and thought, well, I'll just have to carry on because I don't have any more fabric. And I've sewed the skirt on and gathered it up and put the zip in, and I tried it on, and lo and behold, it fits. So I'm a little bit annoyed with myself because I was a bit disappointed, and I really thought that just by taking the seams out and taking those darts out, it still wasn't going to fit. I haven't really done a very nice job inside. I haven't finished the seams all that well. I've just zigzagged. I used my pinking shears because I thought, what's the point of going to lots of trouble making it all really neat if it's not going to fit anyway? And I was pretty sure it wasn't going to fit, but it does fit, so never mind. I know what it's like on the inside, other people don't need to. So I've got that far, and I've just got to put the facing in and do the binding. You use bias binding on the armholes and sew up the hem, and I have a dress, and a wearable dress, because it does, lo and behold, fit. So that will be a nice one. Last but not least, cross stitch. Oh, getting a bit hot now. It's nice. It's been a nice day today, but when I come into my craft room to record, I will shut the window because I don't want my neighbours to hear, and it gets a bit hot. Oh, another good use for cross stitch patterns. Have a fan. So my cross stitch is this. It's the Nag Nag Nag, and it's the Whimsical World of Thomas Joseph, and it was a kit which I am really quite enjoying. What I have done with my cross stitch, the Ada fabric is really quite tiny, so I've got that far, and these are my two nags, nag, but I have to put the third nag on, so I haven't really got that far. But cross stitching does take ages, and because the Ada fabric is so tiny little squares, I was finding it quite hard to see. And I do have a magnifying glass with a light to do these sort of patterns. Oh, just trying to get the needle back, so I don't want to lose that. But what I decided to do was take the cross stitch into work, and I do it on my lunch times because I work in an office and I sit by a window. It's quite sunny, and I have the overhead strip lights that are really bright, and so in my lunchtime I do this, and I can really see it well with the strip lights. It's better than with, well, it's not better than with the magnifying glass obviously, but I can see it perfectly well enough, and I think it's a nice little project to keep in work. So I shall persevere. I don't have that much to do. I would say I'm possibly about half of the way through. So I just brought it home to show you how I was getting on with that. But I am pleased because I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it because I was really struggling with such a small Ada fabric. So that's it for this time really. I was hoping to bring a home section to you. I was hoping to have painted the dresser. I've decided to use the Annie Sloan chalk paint, the white. I had bought some furniture paint or cupboard paint, but you have to sand the dresser down, and with the chalk paint you don't, you just have to wash it, and I'm thinking that's an easier option for me. So I have bought some lac floating shelves from IKEA, and I've bought some nice wallpaper from Next for the alcoves, and I want to paint the dresser. So hopefully at least some of those things will be done for next time, and I can show you then instead. But so many things to do and not enough time. It's the way. That's what everyone suffers from really, isn't it? So if you liked my episode, please subscribe, and please leave a comment below because I do love to hear from you, and I always respond to everybody. So have a nice few weeks until the end of June. I can't quite believe we're at the end of May already. I put a podcast out at the end. I try and do it the last Monday of every month, but the last Monday of June, I think I'm away in my caravan, so who knows, perhaps I shall try and take you around with me a little bit. But I said that last time, and we got to the caravan to discover that mouse had been in there. So I'm hoping that we don't discover anything like that this time, especially as my friend is coming with me to stay for the week. So I wouldn't want her to have anything nasty there. So anyway, until next time, have a lovely few weeks, and I shall speak to you then. Bye.